Would you sign something that fit the brand, but just because you thought it fit, or would it have to have, like, Heather said, an internet presence, touring base, something going on there?
You would have to have. It's so hard to have a hit. It's so hard to have a successful act these days that there has to be a confluence of these other aspects involved. Whether it's a strong digital base, a touring. I mean, ideally, all of these things. A strong internet presence, a touring base, an extraordinarily good record, a great front person, and down the line. So you kind of look for those acts that have that perfect storm of all those.
Sure.
It's too hard to have a hit without them.
And we're old enough, maybe not all of us, but we're old to know that there was a time when that wasn't always necessary. You could take more shots. It was a good song, but they need imaging work. Or would you say now? I mean, since we talk about labels aren't doing a lot of developing, they have to do a lot of these things on their own.
Yeah, I think. I mean, in sitting in the artist chair a lot of the time, I think that there's a real benefit to the fact that the business plan, if you're a new artist, isn't, let me see if I can showcase for a label and get signed. The business plan is, let me start making music. There's a certain quality of recording you can do in your bedroom now. Let me go ahead and put some of it out there, see if I can get anything going. Let me try to make some viral videos. Let me try to just sort of cultivate a fan base and maybe start your business, and then hopefully generate enough momentum where other people can come on and give you additional resources to work with. But if you're the artist now, all of these potential deals that you could do really are just tools for the bigger picture. And you can start down that road on your own, and that's really exciting, actually. That's more possible now than it's ever been. Now, there's a lot of bands doing it, and rising above the clutter is a whole other challenge, but at least you can get started. It's not like making a feature film where you need permission and several $100 million to do it. Like, it's something where you can kick it off yourself, and that's great. That's a huge benefit of the internet that's changed culture in a really big way.
Cool. So, Heather, how do you find music? I mean, are you looking for it actively? Do you have people bringing it to you? What are some of your methods for finding this great talent?
Day to day, it's different. Like today, I had my intern working with me, and he'll bring me a lot of stuff that he's been looking for on blogs mainly. MySpace is a huge toll. Once I find a band on a blog, then I'll immediately go to their MySpace, check how many plays they have, see the videos on there, and go from there. But most of the time for me, it's I go to my favorite blogs, and a lot of them are actually Australian blogs. So
can you give us some examples of them, or some names of them?
Some names. There's one that I go to all the time. It's I think there's that one, and then there's.
What is it? Say it again.
Say it.
We Are Hunted.
Yeah.
We Are Hunted.
Who the hell?
Who the hell?
Yeah, Who the hell is amazing.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I just found a couple on there today, which are amazing. Yeah, there's a slew of them. There's like Australian and Swedish blogs are like the best, I think.
So those blogs sort of, they're writing about it, they're talking about it. If it's sort of a credible, if they're on there, there's something. How about Pitchfork?
There's no, I don't ever go to that because that's kind of like left for me. I like more pop and more, if it gets a good review on Pitchfork, I probably don't like it. Yeah. Like if it gets a bad review on Pitchfork, it's probably my style of music,
All right.
So
still might go there.
I still might go there, but the chances of me going there are slim to none because I know it'll just be them hating on something and me being like, I like that,
Okay.
But I actually love going to like blog aggregators. The Elbows. It's http://elbo.ws. It's amazing because you can just type in what you want to, like one band that you like, and then you'll see all the blogs that written about them. Like if I like Eric Hassel, I could put that in there, and then it'll show me every blog that's written about them and what day they posted it on, and then on that I can see other artists that those blogs liked.
Say that address slowly again.
It's I think called Elbows, but it's spelled out like elbo.ws. And there's another one that's called Hypem. It's like hypem.com, hypem.com, I think.
Okay.
Hypem.
Google
it's another one where, Google it. It's another one where you just type in the artist and then it'll show you the blogs that written about it. And Hypem also is a different thing where people vote daily on what bands that are written about on the blogs, and then they go to the top of the list, and you can see at any given moment who's writing about Kanye and it's really cool. So I usually find my music from blogs first, or if from like the LA Times, like always does like the top 10 unsigned bands, and I don't know. It's different every day though, but mainly blogs.
So Joe, on the publishing side, it's a little bit different because you're looking at writers, but you also work with bands,
Yeah.
and art and sort of like recording artists. How do you find the things that you're interested in?
Yeah, it really depends. I mean, sometimes the best referrals are from other writers. I mean, especially if it's a straight songwriter. It's not like, oh, this is cool, I like it. It's like, I've worked with this person before. They actually understand how to write lyrics. And the science of pop songwriting is just that. It's a science. I mean, there are certain formulas, and either you can do it or you can't. I mean, when I first got into the business, I came from a very naive place of being, in a sense, like from music school, and anybody can write pop music, but you hear great lyricists, great pop lyricists, and everybody can't do that. There are certain reasons why Kara can do what she does, and other great lyricists, and so I find writer referrals are great, especially for other writers. Like, hey, I've got a young writer you got to keep your eye on. Maybe not now, but in a couple of years, watch these guys develop. And that's how I've heard a lot of stuff, and from some of the artists that I work with too. Like I said, my roster is pretty diverse. I mean, there's even people like Duncan Sheik, who has been he's been a writer artist for a long time, and then just wrote the music for Spring Awakening. So who could really guess that was going to happen?
Sure.
So it comes from all angles, but sometimes writers too. There's a tendency at all major publishers at this point to chase charts and see who's available on certain songs, and I think that can get you into trouble, because that could be a great writer, or it could also be somebody who got lucky and is a friend of somebody in the studio, or gets them food, or gets them whatever other substance they need and get a percentage of the song. So in publishing, it's important to say, like, who's actually writing the song, what are they contributing, are they a great writer, or do they have potential? And that's the challenge now, especially in a singles sort of business.
Do you think that you need a manager or a great attorney to represent you, to get your stuff out there? How important is that?
I think it's very important. Yeah, I think it's very helpful. I don't think it's imperative, but I think it's very helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they're gatekeepers. I mean, I learn a lot from attorneys and managers. I mean, I find music from attorneys, managers, nephews, nieces, magazines, newspapers, people at consulates. You know what I mean? From anywhere and everywhere. The one thing that separates us is that for the first time, and since MySpace has been around, we're mining the data we're sitting on. So we're going way beyond the front-facing charts that a lot of people look at. And a lot of those numbers are doctored anyway. Mm-hmm. And we're going kind of down the rabbit hole in terms of finding acts that are trending before hopefully anybody else will know. And we're kind of digging up these acts that regionally or with certain psychographic groups or demographics are trending well. So that's kind of interesting. I've never worked in an environment where there's the objective mixed with the subjective in terms of A&R. So that's cool.
Okay. And how do you find the artists you represent, aside from the big deals, talking new artists?
I think it's a mix of these sort of platforms also. I mean, I think that if you're signing on as a team member, it's a slightly different process than signing someone for their records or for their publishing. I think one of the things that we look pretty carefully at, or at least that I think is really important, is looking at the rest of the team and seeing if there's anyone else involved. And sometimes it's fun to be the first in. I mean, sometimes it's actually great because you can sort of shepherd them into other relationships. And I mean, I think everyone in the music business on some level has the urge to play manager up to a certain point at least. And it's actually really exciting to take someone totally brand new and start to open the world for them. But I think that often it's important in some ways, like if I have a brand new artist, and I've had a few where I've spotted them, just got invited to a show through some person or another. I'm there, I love it, end up talking to the band a little bit afterwards, start to sort of loosely correspond with them. The next step often is to try to find, before even shopping them to a label or shopping them to publishers or doing anything else, is to find a good manager. I think it's actually really, really important in this environment in particular. I think often you can have two bands of sort of equal inherent musical potential, and sort of, equal stats and everything else, and the difference is whether or not someone who knows what they're doing is sort of steering the ship for them a little bit. I think it makes and it's interesting because there's a weird vacuum right now where I think a lot of the established managers aren't so eager to take on new acts because it doesn't come with a commission base and it can be years before they'll make money on it. But I think finding the right person to really coordinate the life of a band is really important. And I think that you see the one thing that I think most of the acts at the top of the chart have in common. The way they got there can be very different in a lot of cases, but what's usually a constant is that there's a really good management team in the mix. And I think that that's now more than ever super crucial. So that's usually my first shopping, is to try to find someone like that.
And I mean, does it have to be a big name manager? It can be someone that's smart and hustling and working hard. And like you said, the big name managers, they don't always have that time or energy to devote to a new artist.
Yeah, I think there's a spectrum. I mean, there's pros and cons. That it's equally frustrating being the smallest band on a big roster and not getting much attention as it is being, having sort of a fanager who's well-intentioned but has no clue. Like, neither of those is a great situation. Ideally, you find someone who has some experience and some traction within the sort of community, but also has the energy level and the passion for this particular project. And it's hard because there's a vacuum. I mean, as with all other parts of the music business right now, I think you've got a tier of people with a lot of access and a lot of experience and a lot under their belt, and then there's a long drop. And then there's people who are at the entry levels who don't necessarily have a ton of experience. And filling that vacuum is something that's going to take some time. And yeah, there are a few sort of middle level managers where they don't have a huge act, but they kind of know what they're doing. But it's actually a smaller set than you'd hope. Yeah. And I think it's incumbent on everyone in the music business to try to sort of grow and train a little bit better than I think has been the case in the last decade. Yeah.
I think now more than ever you have to be smarter as a manager. There's so many different streams of revenue and so many things, so many ways to break your band. Like, you just have to be extremely savvy.
I think the best situation for the management end is, finding somebody young that's like a fanager at first that learns, and then eventually if the band gets some heat, partner up with the bigger management and then have them take you under their wing, learn, and, so that there's the big person behind you, but yet still like the driving force of the really passionate young person that's going to eventually be a great manager. It's like, and then they could be like the day-to-day person. It's kind of what just happened with one of the bands that I work with. So it's like, oh yes, you found a big management partner that you can like actually get some favors called in for, but yet you still have like this young guy that's like brand new to the industry,
Cool. So, we're really we're talking Australia now. This is Australian artists, and they're a world away. They're a long way away. So, but they're just right here through the magic of technology. Mm-hmm. So they're not that far away. So, are labels in the U.S. signing international, specifically Australian artists?
Yes.
They are?
Yes.
Okay.
I know we were really interested in signing that band Kids of 88. We flew them out, and I like a couple Australian bands right now that are really awesome, and I definitely it's harder to justify, hey, I need to see this band, and they're in Australia, because it's going to be like a $2,000 plane ticket. It's going to be great for me if it goes through, but like tomorrow I'm pitching a band from Australia, and hopefully it's good enough to to have like one or more bosses like it enough to to actually either get them here or me go there to see them live, or start the communication.
How did the Kids of 88 come to you? How did you find them?
And they didn't come to me, but it was somebody else in Atlantic, and I kind of was one of the people that really liked the band a lot, and wanted them to come. But it was just another A&R guy that that found it.
And just using that example, what was you obviously like the music. Mm-hmm. Is there something did they have a good story going on? Did you look at what they did in Australia?
They were brand new.
Brand new.
Kind of like they started getting some Triple J radio play, which is huge. So having that, it was like one of their first songs though. So it was kind of like super, almost too new to even start a story. But they already had the Triple J play, and they had a cool manager, and it was just one of the situations where the song was so good.
Sure.
It was like, oh man, we gotta meet with these kids. They're 2 kids, and they're young, and they're really cute, and just getting started. So it didn't work out with Atlantic. I don't know where they ended up being, but I know it was definitely once we brought them over, it was kind of like one of those crazy label hustles. But once they're over here, then everybody else kind of met with them. So